The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited about this presentation today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to take just a minute to let everybody sort of trickle in, a couple of minutes just to make sure that everybody gets to get all of the information at the top end of this. I do want to let you know, for everyone that's here, if you have any questions or thoughts at all or anything specific that you want to know about during the presentation, please feel free to drop that either in the questions section or in the chat. We are going to field all of the questions at the very end of this presentation, but we have somebody named Morgan from Jotform who will be in the chat, who will be able to answer just sort of questions as they come up. If there's something a little bit more complicated that we want to talk through or we want to make sure that we address, we're going to ask that at the end of the presentation. But anytime you have a thought, anytime you have a question, please feel free to just drop in there and let us know what you're thinking. For now, please let us know where you're coming in from, maybe what your business name is, what you have come here to learn about, any thoughts that you have at all. We love to have this be an interactive process and hear where you're coming in from. I am Kelsey Johnson. I'm the product marketing manager for AWeber, and today I'm just hosting Ali Schratz. Ali Schratz is from Jotform. Jotform is one of my absolute favorite platforms out there, and it's a form platform, but you know that kind of simplifies it incredibly. There's so much that you can do with Jotform. They have a free version, and Ali's definitely going to go through some of that as well, but we're also going to talk today about how to use a particular type of form, which is a customer survey, to really engage your customers, engage the people that you already sell to, so that you can get more information from them in order to make your emails better, in order to, you know, potentially come up with new products or service ideas, anything like that. And so, you know, since we're a couple of minutes past the hour, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Ali Schratz from Jotform, who is going to take it away. Again, if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat or the question section of GoToWebinar, and we will field those at the end.
Amazing. Hi, I'm Ali, as Kelsey just mentioned. Thank you very much for that introduction. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about customer surveys. So we'll dive right into it. So again, I am from Jotform. I oversee our partnership marketing, co-marketing, and over 120 integrations, including one with AWeber, where you
Ali,
can actually...
if you can hold on for just a second.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time hearing Ali. I don't know if anyone else is having a hard time hearing her.
Uh-oh.
Can anyone pop in the chat and let us know whether you can hear Ali? Is everything fine? Is it just on my side? Okay, sounds like it's just on my side, so I'm going to go ahead and let her continue. Go ahead, Ali.
Okay, all right. I hope this gets resolved so you get to enjoy all of this information as well. But hopefully for everyone else, this is working okay. So what is Jotform? For anybody who maybe doesn't work with us already, we're a 15-year-old startup, we like to think, based out of San Francisco. And our bread and butter business is powerful online forms and surveys, which equips us very well to be talking about this topic today. We also directly integrate with AWeber, where if you have a customer who does fill out a form or survey and inputs, you know, their email address, that actually can be captured and move into your email marketing list very directly, which, you know, cuts out a lot of time to copy and paste, moving things around, makes the process very simple. So we're here to help us simplify that. Things we're talking about today: why customer feedback is important. Why are we even broaching this subject? How to collect it, and how to use it to fuel your business growth, your marketing strategies, and grow your business ultimately. That's what we all want to do. So let's dive into that first piece. Why is it important? Why are we talking about it? Well, first off, you want to know what is working, which of your strategies are resonating with customers, what is sending them through your doors or onto your online portal. but also what's not working. What is maybe driving them in once and they're not coming back? Why aren't they finding you at all? What is the disconnect there? Forming a personal connection. Your customers want to feel like they know you. They want to feel engaged with your business. And ultimately, you want them to return to your business and to bring more customers, more of their friends and family to check out your business too. There's a lot of studies that have come out recently and also over the years about why this is important. But the one to really kind of spotlight for this presentation is 2021 HubSpot State of Marketing report came out saying the #1 most common source of leads are referrals. So that word of mouth to your colleague, hey, come check out this boutique, this business, this service. I had a great experience. Let's go together. That is gold. And the final piece of this too is you want to be able to address any issues before they escalate, whether that was a customer service issue, whether that was feedback about a product, different things that you don't want them to get out of hand. Customers have a lot of outlets, a lot of ways that they can make their voices heard if needed. So being able to kind of address those and nip them in the bud before they escalate is pretty critical. So hopefully I've convinced you. This is an important topic to be talking about. So how do we go about the really important piece of it, which is actioning? So we're going to go off of a 4-letter acronym today, and this is really going to guide our presentation in our next 20 or so minutes. So how to effectively secure this feedback. We're going to go off ACAF. So asking the right questions, categorizing the feedback, ensuring it gets in front of the people who can action it best, physically acting on the feedback you receive. None of this is going to go anywhere if you receive feedback and it just sits in a spreadsheet. So making sure that we do have an action plan to get it moving and get things resolved. And following up with customers. Once you give them a voice, making sure that they know you heard it and getting in touch with them to acknowledge. So diving into that first piece, this will be the next few slides because asking the right questions has a lot of pieces and it really depends on what your goals are. So let's set your goal. What are you aiming to improve? What are you looking to achieve? What do you want to measure? What are you potentially aiming to address? Is it loyalty to the brand? Is it your overall customer satisfaction, how they feel when they walk in the doors, and especially out the doors? Customer service, anything that needs to maybe be improved upon, addressed, or maybe you've just introduced a new customer service method and you want to see if it's actually working. And product issues, maybe something that could use improvement or expansion or just a little bit of tweaking to make it work better for your customer base. So determining kind of what's going to guide your customer feedback is the crucial first step, and what everything will come back to you to make sure that you were able to answer that exact question. So there's a few different ways to do this, and these are a few acronyms that you've probably seen before, but we're going to dive into what makes each of them different, depending on the question that you're looking to answer. So NPS, the Net Promoter Score, this is what measures the loyalty between a brand and its customers. And you've probably received an email or seen a pop-up that asks this one very basic question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or colleague? And this is a really critical, great, not scale, great method that will divide your respondees up into different categories, which makes it much easier for you to be able to, maybe reward or incentivize the folks who really enjoy your business and are getting great value out of it, and to directly be able to address any of the folks who have come out and said, hey, I actually had this issue. I think this can be improved upon. And we'll see later that this has a direct correlation to revenue growth in your bottom line. So it's certainly a good one to kind of start with. It's, one basic question, takes less than 5 seconds to answer. But again, it will divide up your respondees into 3 different categories. So folks who really had a great experience, love your products, we call those promoters. They've given you a 9, maybe a 10 out of 10. Passives are the folks who are a little bit below that, had a pretty good experience, maybe rated you a 7 or an 8, might be worth, having a conversation with just to see what could have brought them up into that 9 or 10 realm. And then the detractors are the folks who rate you a 6 and under. So that really gives you kind of your area to perhaps improve upon, or to at least address and see where the disconnect happened with those particular customers. So that is NPS. Now we're going into CSAT. This is the customer satisfaction score. So this is, as the name gives you a hint, measures the customer's satisfaction with a business, or perhaps with a purchase, or with just an overall interaction in your store or through the chat if it's an online business. So on a scale of, let's say, very poor to excellent, how satisfied were you with your experience? So brings it down to a much simpler metric. It is a little bit less specific than your Net Promoter Score, in that you're taking the sum of all the positive responses, dividing it by the total responses collected, and then multiplying that by 100, and you're getting an overall percentage of satisfied customers. And basically using that to say, okay, if it's 70%, how do we get ourselves up to 80 to 90 to 100? And giving yourself basically a benchmark to be able to grow the satisfaction that your customers have with your business.
Yeah, and I want to mention something here, that oftentimes we'll focus so much on the positive feedback because we like to hear it. And even if you don't have tons and tons of customers, it's still a really good idea to get this sort of baseline score, so that you can, like, the good feedback feels really great, but you can really improve from maybe finding out that your overall score is lower than you thought it was. You've been inflating it in your own head, but that's okay. That's good to hear, because what you can hear from that is you have room for improvement, which means that you have room to grow your revenue, right?
Totally. And there's actually a couple of stats that we'll get to a little bit later too, that dive into exactly what Kelsey said, in that feedback, good or bad, is still going to be useful. And nobody likes negative feedback. Everybody wants to hear that their business is the best they've ever been to, that the experience they had with your sales reps was just over the top incredible. And there are certainly folks out there who I'm sure will say that, but there are also folks who like to be vocal when they don't have a great experience, and that becomes a learning opportunity to then apply to something like this, and to be able to then kind of grow that strategy and work out a way to maybe improve that piece. So all feedback is good feedback at the end of the day, because it's just going to help move you forward and move your business up. So thank you, Kelsey, really helpful. The other piece that we're going to go into in this with just the specific acronym, and then we'll go into something a little bit broader, is the customer effort score. So this is going to measure the ease of interaction between customers and a business. Folks want things to be quick, simple, don't want to have to go through a lot of steps. Kelsey and I have talked about this at length, about how we like just really easy A to B, don't have to go through a lot of different steps to be able to get the information that we want. And that rings true with a lot of customers. So this is an opportunity to find out, are your solutions working right now? On a scale of very helpful to very unhelpful, what best describes your customer service experience today? And also keep in mind, this is a little bit flip-flopped from the last one, where now you're looking to the left at which ones are your folks who are very satisfied versus not. So just keeping those colors in mind and what direction they're going. So this is calculated by subtracting the percentage of positive responses from the percentage of negative ones. So a low average customer score means that folks are having a hard time finding the answers that they need, maybe having to click through too many pages, maybe having to go through too many associates. Really just kind of being able to simplify that process is going to help heighten that average. And last here is asking the right questions open-ended. So open-ended questions are going to take a little bit longer. All of these other ones, as you've seen, are, click a box. It's very helpful. It's a 5 out of 10, whatever that may be. This is asking for a little bit more actionable feedback and more thoughtful response. So, why did you choose to shop with us? What would you change about your experience? How did you hear about us? What kind of referral did you receive, if any? Did you see our billboard? Did you see our, Instagram ad, whatever it may be? And do you have a favorite product? Which on paper does not look perhaps like an open-ended question, but once you get people excited about their favorite products, oh, these pants were incredible. I had this experience in them. This mascara changed my life. Here, let me tell you the story. People love to get lit up about the the products and the services that really made a difference in their lives. So it really truly becomes an open-ended question, and you might be able to glean a lot of additional feedback through that initial response. So I'm sure I just overwhelmed you. That was a lot of different ways that we can ask for feedback, a lot of different questions, a lot of different methods. So how do we pick one? What are the true differences, the pros and cons of using each? So let's go back through all 4 approaches that we talked about. Net Promoter Score. This one's easy to distribute and analyze. It provides a big picture gauge of customer loyalty. You can see on that 1 to 10 gauge, just, who is really resonating with your business, who could maybe use a little bit more attention to maybe up their score a bit more. And as I mentioned before, improving the NPS is directly correlated to increased revenue. This was a Harvard Business Review study that looked at a lot of NPS scores in direct correlation with business revenue, and found that focusing on that NPS score and upping those folks who are the detractors into the more the promoter side of that spectrum has a direct correlation on your bottom line. What makes this maybe not the right approach for your business? The data is pretty general, doesn't provide necessarily a clear picture as to why some customers won't be recommending your business, because it is really just that number. And unless you enact a follow-up plan to address the low scores, there isn't a lot to do with that information. So you just want to have that next step of, okay, this is the information that we have. How do we go about increasing those 0 to 6 ratings into a 7+? Going back into customer satisfaction score. So this is a great tool to measure interactions between your employees and your customers. And like I mentioned before, if you have a new training regimen, a new way of approaching customers, a new way of approaching customer service on the whole, this is a great way to measure if that is working, or if it might need a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of work, or a different approach. And again, easy to distribute and analyze. One question, you can put it on Instagram stories, you can put it in an email, good to go. Cons on this, self-reporting does come with some risks. Folks who have a really great experience like to sing it from the rooftops. Folks who don't have a great experience might be responding as well. And you won't necessarily get as much in the middle. If people had a pretty good experience, might go back, kind of falling somewhere in that kind of neutral range, you may not get quite as much from them. So you might just be getting the 2 extremes, which can be a little bit hard to action, because at the end of the day, there's really nothing in the middle to go off of. So it might kind of skew the number in the end. And it, again, as with the NPS, it doesn't really provide a lot of context. You don't have a lot of information as to why the customer satisfaction score was that way. Like what was the interaction? What might have led to the results that ended up happening? All the different pieces. There's not a lot to go off of there, being that it's just the 1% number. The customer effort score, it's highly reliable to predict customer behavior satisfaction, and another study has found that it can lead to customer loyalty. Great to see. And it can apply to all client-facing processes, which makes it just really usable across a different range of businesses. So that's always very helpful. The con that we want to point out with this one is it's just related to service. So you won't have additional information about what made it difficult or why a process was challenging. Really, the common denominator with all 3 of these first methods of measurement is that you don't have the why. You don't have the context as to why that number was assigned. You really just have the number. So unless we go deeper and we dig in with some open-ended questions and find out what led that customer to provide that specific number, there isn't a whole lot for us to go off of, which is what leads us into the open-ended questions. So this does provide the why. It talks about the customer experience, the likelihood they have to recommend your business. The con of this, though, is that it's time consuming. It does provide, or does require a little bit more thought, a little bit more, okay, how do I explain this, in a way that for some folks might be constructive, some folks just want to vent. And then that also leads to a lot more time for your team to have to analyze and go through and say, all right, what is actionable here? Some responses could be this, some could be this. It's going to be a little bit more time consuming than just a number. So pros and cons across the board, but all certainly have very measurable, important reasons for being on this list and still provide value across the board, depending on the question that you're trying to answer or the level of feedback or type of feedback that you're looking to get. So now that we've nailed down the question that you're asking and asking it correctly, let's categorize the feedback that you've now gotten. So ensuring the data is collected all in one place so that nothing is lost or overlooked, crucial. You don't want Post-it notes all over the place. You don't want, emails maybe floating around in a bunch of different folders. Having it all together in one place is an important way to just make sure that everything does get addressed by the right people and that it's recorded, that it has been taken care of. And in a few slides, we'll go into a couple of methods to do that, ways that we found really, really helpful. So reviewing the data for trends or commonalities, was there a new customer satisfaction or customer service method that was introduced? Is that maybe what's relating to some of this feedback? Was there a holiday? Was there an event that was happening on the street where your business is? Are people just kind of saying the same things like, hey, really wish, they had this nail color, this type of jewelry, this type of service. Maybe a lot of people are asking for the same things that you haven't offered yet. So it might be worth kind of looking into to see, is this common? Is this, something that we should look into? Because a lot of our customers are voicing opinions about it. Dividing the responses into categories, very, very important. Again, because you're going to be getting folks who are very, very positive, very, very negative, maybe some folks neutral, and some folks who are giving you responses that just don't really have business value, maybe just venting in general, and just looking for an outlet to kind of make their voice heard, and maybe not something that's specifically about your business. Maybe it's about something else that happened that day. It's important to categorize that and make sure that you have a clear picture of what you need to tackle, what maybe doesn't apply to the business, or what maybe could be applicable later and something to maybe address down the line. And determining any backstories or root causes, especially to negative feedback. There's a lot of different ways that this could apply, but it could be worth, if it's a very specific response about, say, a customer service interaction, going back to perhaps a sales rep, whether they were named or somebody who was working that day or who was manning the chat that day, to go back and talk to them and say, do you have any additional context about this interaction? Was there a miscommunication, a misconception about something? Getting a little bit more of the why and the how behind that piece of feedback could determine how best to address it moving forward. And at the end of it, make a plan. You want to address this feedback. You want to assign it to the appropriate team or employees to get the best response, to get this moving forward, and to let your customer know that you saw it, you heard them, and this is what you're doing about it. But you want to have a game plan to do that. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit overwhelming. So make sure that you have a plan moving forward. Acting on the feedback. This is the third of our 4 letters in our acronym. So the purpose of customer feedback isn't just to hear what customers think. Acting on it can make tangible changes that boosts the business. That's what we want. There's a great study that came out from Bloom Tools. 68% of customers leave a business they perceive to be indifferent to them. So let's make sure that once we get the information from our customers, we get their feedback, letting them know that we heard it and we're going to act on it, that we're going to make a difference. That's crucial. People want to be heard. They don't just want to be speaking into a void and not see that go anywhere. It might deter them from giving you feedback in the future. Improving a product, launching a new product, making service calls more efficient, maybe shortening delivery times. These are all different examples of ways that businesses can act on the feedback that they're getting and make a positive change, depending on the type of feedback that came back. But those are just a few things, and we'll go into some examples of how that has worked for some businesses. And finally, following up with customers. Again, as we keep saying, you've given your customers a voice, let them know you heard it. Give them the validation that the feedback they gave was not falling on ignorant or deaf ears. They have been heard. you're going to do something with it. Here's what you did. A feedback response, let them know that you took their opinion seriously and you're building trust by letting them know that you've made improvements and listened to their feedback. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to listen to every single piece in action on every single thing that someone has said to you. However, going back to your plan, having the game plan, having the idea of, okay, these are the steps we're going to take to, address these specific pieces of feedback, and then sharing that with customers, and whether that is through, say, an email saying, hey, this is exactly what we did, or even reaching out to specific customers to say, hey, we saw it, we saw you, we heard you, here's exactly what we're going to do to fix this problem. We hope you'll return to us. These are all ways that you can follow up with customers and make them know that you heard them. And then the crucial piece of this as well is logging those feedback responses. So this is why you want everything in one place. You can then go back and say, followed up with this customer, acted on this piece of feedback, and be able to keep a very succinct log of all the things that you did so that nothing gets lost, nothing slips through the cracks, and there isn't a piece of feedback that just ends up in the void and never addressed. So all sounds great. How do we want to do this? What are some tools, some ways that we can action on all of this, keep everything organized, make our game plan, have templates to use for all of these things? What can we do with all of this information that I have just thrown at you? So fortunately, me coming from Jotform, we have over 400 feedback and survey templates. You can get customer satisfaction feedback. You can get, on a scale of 1 to 10, feedback forms. You can get the longer open-ended questions. We make it really easy to, use something that's existing or even create your own. We have multiple tiers of plans. Our freemium plan includes all of these feedback forms. So you could go on right after this presentation and go make your first feedback form, send it out today. And to keep everything organized, to make sure that it is categorized, it is assigned to the correct teams, it has a column for acting on the feedback, what your plan is, if it's gotten done. All of these forms and surveys can connect to what we call Jotform tables. So essentially it looks like what you've probably seen in Excel, but connects directly to our forms and surveys so that all of this information goes from your survey template out to your customers, and then your customers' feedback goes directly into this template. It sincerely could not be easier, and keeps everything all in one place, which is what we want. In regards to gathering methods, I'm actually going to kick this back over to Kelsey to talk a little bit more about the AWeber solutions here.
Yeah. Obviously we've all got these email lists that we're sending, newsletters to, we're sending sales emails, whatever you might be sending out. These Jotform forms that people can fill out for feedback, whether it's open-ended, whether it's just a score, those all just exist at a link. So you can put that link in if you're doing a specific campaign where you want to, for 1 month, try to get as much feedback as possible. You can send out a dedicated email and put that in there. Or you could just put it at the bottom of your emails. You've probably seen this at the bottom of other emails. We send it out with our customer service follow-up emails. That's just like, hey, how did we do? How was your interaction with us? And that, a lot of people think of that as, maybe a bigger company's tactics, but that's something you can do even if it's just you. Hey, how did I do? What could I have done better? But, even that open-ended question could be something that's really easy to put at the bottom of your emails. So keep that in mind, that you can actually set up one of these forms asking for feedback for, on Jotform's free version to start, and then add that link at the bottom of your emails or even your campaigns, and then you don't even have to think about it. You don't even have to run a specific campaign, and you can start gathering that feedback and using it, as Allie's going to explain, in different ways to improve your business.
Awesome. And again, because AWeber and Jotform have a direct integration, you can put all of this together. So the feedback that you're getting, the folks who are responding, can go right into your email marketing list. Everything can be added to your Jotform table. Really, it all keeps everything together, everything organized, and nothing gets lost. Another piece that I'll dive into just briefly is social media monitoring. I know there's a lot of words on this slide, so I'll make it quick. But essentially saying you can go out and ask for customer feedback. Customers might come directly to you with their feedback, or they might just be putting it out on the internet and not tagging you at all. That doesn't mean if they're not saying things directly to you, not asking direct questions, that doesn't mean they don't have anything to say. I thought this was a really powerful piece of a study through Lee Resource. For every customer that complains, there are 26 other unhappy customers who have remained silent. And there's a whole other group of them who might be just blasting their feelings over Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. So setting up alerts on your social channels is a good way to see if your customers are talking about you. They might be mentioning you, so it's directly tagging you, so you are getting a notification saying, hey, this person has something to say, this person is calling you out, good or bad. Other folks might not be doing that. They might be a little bit more stealth and not have that mention or have a specific hashtag. They might just want to get their voice heard, and they're just yelling it on their feed without direct attribution to you, so you may not have even seen it. So there's social listening services that help comb through the noise and comb through these kinds of mentions so that they are brought to your attention. So Linkfluence is a great one. Mention is another one that you can work with to set up this social listening, this social monitoring. And they can also work with web pages and with some of your competitors if you also want to see, what are some of your rival businesses doing? What are some other folks in your realm of business, promoting or launching or, bringing in from a customer service perspective that might be interesting for you to try, or might be something worth, taking a piece of and seeing if it works for your business. These are all different ways that you can not have to sit there for several hours a day trying to manually comb all these pages and comb all of these feeds to see if you can get this feedback or get this competitor set. But there's ways to listen and to monitor through these services that might also be very helpful and might give you a little bit of extra feedback that you potentially didn't ask for, but could absolutely utilize.
Yeah, and if you don't want to use a tool, you can hop in from time to time and just, like, I would say, wherever you think your customers are actually hanging out, just do a quick search for your company's name or anything that you think might be related. Another trick that I've used in the past is to get your biggest fans on board with helping you and just say, hey, listen, if there's a Facebook group where people are talking about what I offer, or if people mention, me on Twitter, good or bad, just let me know. Shoot me an email or DM it to me. And that can be a really helpful way for people who are more engaged maybe on that particular platform, who maybe do see that feedback. Let them know that you always want to hear about it.
Yeah, and we'll actually dive into some opportunities to perhaps incentivize folks to help you out with that, maybe even build their loyalty with you in exchange for doing a little bit of sleuthing on your behalf. So it's a good call out. In terms of all of this information and how it's going to impact your marketing strategy, the findings might, in the words of our favorite scholar, Ross Geller, might require some pivoting of your strategy. So let's go into what that might look like. So back to the social media monitoring, again, something that you can do manually, you can do with some folks who are maybe trusted on these particular channels, who you have a great relationship with. They can be a force for good. They can bring you some really, really insightful insights to see what kinds of content is really resonating with your customer base and what folks are really connecting to. So the click-through rate on a product landing page, that's going to provide you some insight into what is of interest to these folks. Do you have a new product that has a high click-through rate? Clearly there's something about that particular product, potentially even the placement or the way that you've maybe written about it on the page, that people are really resonating with and really attracted to. So that's worth kind of looking at as well. The number of viewers who watch a whole promotional video. This is going to look at engagement. Did they watch it to the end? Did they engage with it? Did they interact? Did they like it? Did they comment on it on the page that they found it on? These are all different ways to kind of measure the engagement piece and see what people are responding to, good and bad. But what might, help you determine what to do with your next campaign based on kind of what worked best that round. And staying up to date on industry trends can help you stay relevant as well. I think, of course, through these last couple of years, through the pandemic, with everything certainly going virtual and digital really picking up speed, it helps you capitalize on these viral trends that really kept us going. So the flashback photos on Instagram, the TikTok dances with employees that tend to drive a lot of engagement. It's not just potentially focusing on a particular product launch or specific facet of your business that might be in your plans, but it might allow you to be part of a cultural conversation and a cultural phenomenon that is just getting a lot of eyeballs and really just generating brand awareness. And because these are social platforms that are social in their nature and public, it's a great way to demonstrate your dedication to customer satisfaction, to be able to use these tools as ways to maybe thank customers, to call out specific customers like, hey, thank you so much. It was your 10th visit. Whatever it may be, it's a good way to kind of be able to publicly tell people, we hear you, we appreciate your feedback, we appreciate your business, your loyalty. We hope that you come back and you bring people here. So in terms of applying these feedback learnings, kind of going off of what Kelsey had talked about a few minutes ago, consider introducing a loyalty program, a way to incentivize and reward shoppers, perhaps brand ambassadors who continue supporting your business, shouting from the rooftops how wonderful they think it is, and peppering ongoing feedback questions into your strategy. So it doesn't always have to be a full-fledged campaign with, okay, we're going to send out, this NPS survey to all of our customer base, in this one push. Maybe it's part of, as soon as somebody makes a purchase, the email they're receiving afterwards, maybe that has just a piece of feedback on the bottom saying, hey, how was your experience today? Is there a way that we might be able to improve upon it in the future? Or even touching base with them a couple weeks down the line. Hey, how was your experience? How has your experience been with this particular product that you purchased? Is there any feedback that you want to give us now that you've had a chance to really engage with it? So going back to customers who love your business, treat them. This is a great opportunity to, whether on social, on email, sending them an exclusive discount code to use on their next purchase, and perhaps one to pass along as a referral. That's a really excellent opportunity to kind of send an email and then have a pass along rate over to another person, forwarding, hey, friend, colleague, family member, love this business. They just passed along this discount code. I'd love to share it with you. Or hosting an event, depending on the times that we're in, digital, in person, for your top customers as a thank you for their business. People love to be thanked. They love to be appreciated. We all miss events. It's a great way to kind of bring all of these people together, and especially the folks who all really love your business. Bring all of them together. Let them all talk more about how much your business has maybe made an impact on them and the different products and services that you offer that have really resonated with them. Might encourage them to kind of bring more friends and family and colleagues into the fold. And then on the other side of this, the customers who had an issue, address it directly. This is going back to acting on that feedback. So a couple options here. Maybe set up a time for them to shop with you one-on-one, whether that's in person or on the website. You can guide them through saying, hey, based on your feedback, these are a few items I think that you'd really like. I have set them aside for you. Let's have a conversation. Let's go through them. Let me talk about why I think they're such a great fit for you. Alternatively, or additionally, sending a few follow-up questions to kind of understand what's going to be most helpful. Do they want that one-on-one shopping experience? Do they, want another opportunity to come in and try your services again, perhaps at a discount? Would it help to give them a token of appreciation once they've given you some feedback, just as a kind of a thank you? So a couple different options there, depending on the nature of the feedback, the nature of the business, and what might work best.
Yeah, I do customer feedback interviews as a part of my job. And I have, if anyone wants to give me some feedback, feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear it. And there's so much depth that you can get from having a conversation with somebody that you can't get from even like an open-ended form, because most people are trying to be nice, or they can't quite describe to you the reason that they had a frustration or what they particularly like, or the thing that they're telling you about is the thing that they're thinking about right now, but big picture, it's not as important to them as something else. And so I think getting on those one-on-one calls with your customers, especially the ones who have had an issue, but even the ones who are happy to just understand where they're coming from, is something that it's something that, if you have a storefront, if you have a brick and mortar business, like a vacuum repair store, let's say, it's you talk to that person. Everybody who comes in, they bring you your vacuum, you get to have that conversation. But if you sell things online, you don't get to have those same kinds of interactions. And so setting up these interviews, if you can, is something that's incredibly valuable and can really give you that extra depth of the context on what people like and don't like about your business. That can be just so valuable. So I definitely recommend, even if you can just set up 1 or 2 a year, doing that as much as possible.
Absolutely. And it's good to know that it's a tried and true method on your side too. So kind of some final things to keep in mind. You don't need a 100% response rate to attain valuable customer insights. Some folks just don't want to give their feedback. It's okay. You're going to, putting it out to enough of your customers, you're going to get some folks who are responding, and you can act on the feedback that they give you. So even if it's not every single person who has ever walked through your doors or ever made a purchase on your site, or ever even just logged onto your site, there are still valuable insights to attain from this action. And if you're asking open-ended questions, keep it short and simple. Something I actually want to call out, these are not for open-ended questions, but these are for even just the shorter surveys. If you look at the examples on the right side of the screen, they say specifically, look at the first one. It's one simple question, but it will go a long way. Or the very bottom, the survey should take less than 30 seconds to complete. Giving people an idea of how long you need their time to provide their insights is going to help so much in getting ultimately responses. I can't tell you how many surveys I've gotten in the past, and these are actually all surveys that I've received while building this presentation, from a coupon website and from one of the places where I actually tried on wedding dresses. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten surveys and asks for my feedback where, I'm like, okay, I have a couple minutes, I'll click through, and it's just this laundry list of questions. I'm like, I don't have time to do this. And I just end up shutting it, and they never get my feedback. And I might have had some great insights to share with them, good and bad. But knowing the time that it's going to take to complete this, or hey, it's only one question, hopefully you have 10 to 30 seconds to maybe look into this, or even 5 seconds. It's just, a quick, on a scale of 1 to 10. Giving people an idea of how much time they need to dedicate is also extremely helpful, and can absolutely up your engagement rate and the number of responses that you're receiving, because folks can carve out, perhaps 30 seconds that day, especially if they know in advance. So with the open-ended questions, try and keep it to 5 to 10. Shouldn't take more than 10 minutes to complete, really shouldn't take that long. Keeping it short and simple is really going to help get that feedback, and also for your team to be able to sort through, categorize, and address that feedback. And as we keep talking about, have a plan. Have a plan for collecting data, have a plan for acting on it, have a plan for categorizing it in a way that's going to make sense for your business and for your team, whether you're a team of 1, a team of 2, a team of 5, or a team of 50. Just having a game plan for how you're going to address all of that feedback. And at the end of the day, you don't want to de-incentivize people from giving feedback, from, even giving business to you, or breaking their trust. So this is just a really important way to kind of connect the dots from A to Z, get the feedback, act on it, let them know that you've done so. And we'll wrap this up with a few examples of this working in real life. So first one is a great business called Cali Party Bus, who have worked with Jotform for a number of years. It's a party bus company in the San Francisco Bay Area and also down in Southern California. who have used us for initial bookings, collecting payments, and securing feedback post-event. And this has been instrumental in helping to increase their bookings and increase their customer satisfaction, because they've been able to streamline the communication process, cut down the response time to 5 minutes or under, and ultimately be able to grow the business to both of these regions of California, and increasing the number of people who have actually been able to use them, especially coming out of the pandemic and moving into 2022. This set of the pandemic, anyway. Second example to go with is Uber. This is a great example of customer feedback that is instantaneous. I'm sure you've been in a car where you can rate the driver halfway through your ride, but especially once your ride is over, once an Uber Eats delivery has made it to your doorstep, it gives you an opportunity to say, hey, how was that experience? And if you give it 4 stars or under, they actually ask you for additional feedback. They want the why. If you're in a car, they want to know, was it an issue with the driving? Was it the level of service provided by the driver? Was it the navigation? Did they take an obscure route and it took longer to get there? Was there an issue with the pickup? All these different things they want to know, what was it that made this ride? But they make it very easy, where it's essentially a drop-down menu, or a menu where you can just kind of click those buttons saying, oh, it was the pickup and the cleanliness of the car. And it just takes a few seconds, and it's instrumental for them to understand if there were any issues with the ride or with the delivery. And this feedback can also be used to provide the restaurants who use Uber Eats to, understand food quality. Do they maybe need to work on portion size, especially now that delivery has picked up so much in the last couple of years, or are people looking for bigger portions, smaller portions, additional sides, things like that. And a bonus example that I personally loved, because it kept popping up while I was building this presentation over the holidays. If anyone is familiar with Liz Plank, she is a Canadian author and journalist who realized, or decided, I guess, when you leave a job, you have an exit interview, so why don't you get one when you leave a relationship? And she actually went out to several of her ex-boyfriends to understand what happened in the relationship. Why did they break up? How did things break down? This is unfathomable, I'm sure, for most of us, looking at our past relationships and thinking we're going to go back to our ex-significant others to understand, what went wrong, what kind of feedback do you have for me? And I've included her list of questions that she provided, and I wish I could say that she's a Jotform user. These, as I understand, were texted to these folks while she was, I think, on Amtrak. But it's a great, list of questions to understand, was it, what were my strengths? What maybe did we have some issues with from a communication standpoint? And I really love this example, which I realize is kind of a bonus example here, because of this particular quote. Breakups, if done correctly, aren't just about breakthroughs, but also just about breakdowns, but about breakthroughs. We become new people because of them, hopefully better versions of ourselves. So essentially, she's gleaning feedback from her exes, folks who knew her very intimately for, months or several years, to understand how she might be able to grow as a person, relatively, with some caveats, surely.
Yeah, so if you're afraid of getting feedback for your business, just start with getting feedback on your personality, and then business feedback won't be scary at all.
Yeah, I'm not going to officially.
That terrifies me.
Feedback, but it's an idea if you want to really start 22 with a bang. So some final thoughts to leave you with. Obviously, the pandemic, ongoing as it is, has vastly accelerated digital adoption. Customers expect their needs to be met quickly and efficiently online. And Qualtrics found that 2/3 of customers think that companies need to be better at listening to feedback. Customers who do not feel heard are going to take their business elsewhere. And a piece that I thought from a survey that SurveyMonkey put out in the last year that is great, and then great for learning, is 85% of customers are likely to give positive feedback. 81% of customers are likely to give feedback when they've had a bad experience. So again, all feedback is good feedback, even if it's positive, rah, you're the best business I've ever been to. I loved XYZ products. this service changed my life, as well as the, hey, wow, this could really use some work. At the end of the day, you can build some loyalty, you can build some new customers, and it's an opportunity to grow. I mean, in all of these different facets. So hopefully these are a lot of ideas, a lot of opportunities, a lot of, it feels like a lot of work, but I think once you kind of get it started, look through our templates, look through some of the ways that we may be able to help, simplify the process a little bit, maybe through a Jotform template, I think we'll be able to find ways to grow your business in 22 and really, really find some new customers and to reward the ones who are keeping us all chugging. So I appreciate your time. And on a scale of 1 to 10, would love to know in the chat how I've done.
I've got a question for you really quickly, Allie.
Yeah.
So at AWeber, we have a lot of people who use AWeber who have huge lists of people, right? Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. But we also have a lot of people who are just getting started, maybe just building out their side hustle or just building out their email list. And they maybe only have 20, 50, 100 people on their list, and they're slowly growing them out. And my question is, what's the smallest amount of people that you can start to ask for feedback from?
I don't know that there's a specific number. Any of the research that I've done or the past experience I've had with gleaning customer feedback is, I mean, I think you can even start with 10. If you're a brand new business or a very small business, kind of just building up your customer base, find out what's working, and that's what's going, or what's not working even, and that is what's going to help continue to grow it. I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with, not every person who has been on your website, made a purchase, or come through your doors of your business needs to provide their feedback. It's likely going to be just a percentage of those people who are providing feedback. So the smaller number it is, you're still going to get something that you're going to be able to work with. And especially if once you get that feedback, even if it's 10 people and you see some trends, you see some commonalities, those are still going to be valuable insights that you can action.
Absolutely. And then we had someone even mention in the chat that they don't have any people on their email list yet. And that's really where you want to start, by going to social media, right? So if you have a social media audience, however small, you can start to ask for feedback from people there, and you can use that same link, right, to your Jotform form. But what's cool about that is once you have that integrated with AWeber, when that person fills out that form, then they go onto your email list, right? So you're starting to, people love to give you feedback too. So you're starting to grow your list by asking for feedback first. And then since you've already interacted with that person, you've already gotten their feedback, you can ask them what they want to hear from you in your emails, and you can start to use that to build your messaging. And it doesn't even have to be your own audience. You can go out there and you can ask in Facebook groups, you can ask on Twitter, you can start to try to start that conversation and actually use that as a marketing tactic to start building out your list, deciding what to sell, unless you already know what you're going to sell, and then deciding which direction to start selling that in, and coming up with really great ideas for what to start sending out in your emails. And that can be a really great way to take you from 0 to 1, right? Instead of just saying, hey, sign up for my email list, you can say, hey, I want your feedback. I'm thinking about starting to sell this or build this or do this or talk about this. What do you want to hear more about? And that's going to be a lot more of an engaging way to ask people to join your email list than just, hey, sign up, because everyone here is hearing sign up all the time now. So this could be a really great, way to generate new subscribers.
Yeah, I think starting with social media is a really great tactic, and it's an easy way to at least get some initial eyeballs, and then direct them. And once you have their attention captured, you can do more with that, and you can get, build a little bit more of a rapport, and then get into their email list. And yeah, I think it's a really great place to start.
All right, so I have another question for you, which is, what is your one surefire, well, surefire, I mean, in as much as you have one, if you were going to only ask one question of your audience, of your customers, what would it be?
Oh, I perhaps because I come from a marketing background, I'm always very curious to know where people hear about, things that I'm putting out. So how did you hear about us is critical. We spend a lot of money, not we, but businesses overall, perhaps spend quite a bit of their capital on, perhaps Google ads or Facebook ads or um, hiring somebody to oversee all of their social and building, community building and things. And I think understanding, was this customer referred word of mouth? Were they referred through, my Google ads? Is that what's working? Obviously you can get metrics from all of these different ad platforms, but, getting more of this insight about, did somebody share this on Instagram? Is that where you found us? Really learning to see like, okay, where are most of our customers really coming from? And how can we hone in more on that? So maybe we need to, put more into Instagram, and maybe it's not Instagram ads. Maybe it's just organic Instagram on our, owned channel, and just leaning more into, the hashtags, the, partnering maybe with some similar businesses where we have some commonalities in our customer bases, different ways that maybe we can collaborate together to kind of strengthen in numbers and grow both of our lists and things like that. So I think there's a lot of different answers I can give to this, but I think the one that I'm going to stick to right now is how did you hear about us? And just finding where these customers are finding you.
Yeah, I love that. If all your customers are coming from Facebook, don't spend any more money on Google, right? But how do you know?
Or at least less in the budget.
All right, so we've got another question. So if you create a survey on Jotform, will it just give you a link that you can send out to anyone?
Yep. So once you go through, pull a template or build it from scratch, you then, so it gets to kind of building and then publishing. Once you publish it, you then have a link that you can send it out in an email. You could even send it through, a Slack channel. You could really put it anywhere, and it will link directly to that template or that form or survey that you've created. So it makes it really easy.
even a text message. So that
Sure.
girl who was asking for text message feedback, she could have been sending out Jotform surveys.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume they're mobile friendly as well, so they'd look great if somebody was answering it on a cell phone too. Yeah.
Looks great on all.
All right. Well, it sounds like that is all of the questions that we had coming through. Thank you again so much for talking about this, Allie. It's something that I'm incredibly passionate about. It's something that is in the long list of things that used to sort of be something that huge businesses only did, and now it's trickling down to really small businesses, side hustlers, and it's an idea that everybody is not only able to, think about doing for their own business, but they can do it affordably, they can do it easily, and it can really help you grow even at a very small scale. So I loved hearing about that. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we're done for today?
I think really just don't be afraid of the process. Don't be afraid of the feedback. At the end of the day, you're just going to get insights that will ultimately be helpful, even if some of them are really great to hear and some are maybe a little bit tougher. And I know that we covered a lot today and it looks a little overwhelming, but once I think you get started and you kind of have a question that you want answered and a game plan of how you're going to go about getting those answers and acting on them, it's going to feel a lot easier. So just breaking down that acronym into a plan, and I think you'll be good to go. And hopefully between Jotform and AWeber, you've got, and of course some social monitoring tools, you've got a lot of different opportunities to kind of make this effective and get some good responses going.
Awesome. So we've got, just as we're heading out, we've got Dan says that you rate a 10. So I assume that's out of 10.
Thank you, Dan. Much appreciated.
It was so great to have you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This recording is going to be available. We'll send it out to you via email. It'll be on YouTube. And thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks, Allie.
All right, thank you.